Oh, is it okay now? Tattoo? Yeah, I guess it is.
Yes, started.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone. Hi guys. This is the second dev meeting. As in the previous one, we will discuss items in the dev agenda that have been happening for the past 2 weeks, and we will plan the next 2 weeks. So today, Harris is not joining us, but everyone else in the team is here. You can see the agenda. Do you have anything that you would like to add to the agenda? Okay, cool. So we'll go to the first item in the agenda. Welcoming Oliver to the first to his first Aragon Dev Meeting, and if you want to say a few words about your first days and how are you finding everything, all that.
Yeah, sure. So I joined about a week ago now, and I've mostly just read smart contracts, figuring out how the core works, because I'm going to make the interface between the smart contracts and the user interface. I finished that today, and it looks good. I don't really have any questions about it. I mean, I've talked to you, Jorge, about it. It all seems fine, and I'm eager to start doing some things.
Cool. That's great. Next item I had here, it was like regarding the progress with the accounting app. If you can talk us through it, Tim.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, accounting app. Making progress with that. I moved the test over to their own file, and I was getting, to be honest, I got caught with two quite killer bugs. One was in the truffles framework that you solved, Jorge, and the other was, I can't remember what it was now, but it was an I done this. But those killed about a day and a half. But progress is going good with that. I'm going to add the checks to, I'm not sure yet, the bylaws. I'm not sure exactly how to interface with that yet, but that's like top of my list. And what's next? And to make sure that the cron actually limits when the new accounting periods can start, so that possibly anybody who has the permissions to make a new accounting period can make it, as long as the frequency, it's over the frequency that the person set. And also, well, not related to accounting specifically, but there was a little bit of a hysterics around some NPM packages, and I pinned a bunch of requirements on the Aragon/Aragon repo and pushed that up, and actually added that to Travis CI too, so that's cool. Did you want me to just go into the next thing too, or?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so talking about that too. So there was a slight panic a couple days ago because NPM, well, I mean, everybody remembers the whole left pad issue where packages was removed and it kind of broke a bunch of, it was a dependency for a lot of other packages, which then broke their build process. But it turns out that there's some vulnerable accounts, more or less, which combined with a package in NPM that always installs the latest version of something, means that if an account is compromised and it's a dependency or child dependency of one of our packages, it's possible that they upload a new version. And if it was malicious, it could compromise us, especially, I didn't look into the details, but supposedly on our build process, it could run code before we actually deploy. I didn't actually look at that specifically personally, but that's what the warning was. To combat that, like immediately, we pinned the dependencies in Yarn, and Yarn actually can verify that the packages that are installed from package.json, the hash of it matches the hash that we installed originally, so that even if a new version is uploaded, we'll get alerted. If a new code base is uploaded with the same version, we get notified by that. So I mean, it's not the best thing possible because we still need to verify that the code hasn't been, hijacked or is malicious, but at least we know about it. But that leads into the other thing is like, this is kind of like, I don't know, like, I'm not a big fan of how NPM does their package managing, but that's just a personal preference. But an alternative would be to use Populous, which is based on Python. I've used that before, and it's actually quite nice. There was a problem with it a while ago because I think the RPC, the JSON RPC had a backwards incompatible change. And it was stuck on an older version. I think they might have fixed that by now. But the cool thing about using Python, I mean, there's a lot of things, but their packages can be pinned quite easy, verified from the developer itself, and a lot of other things. But I'm not going to go into the details right now, but I would like to propose that someone, probably me, maybe, do research to show the pros and cons of the frameworks that exist, combined with what our needs are, and the amount of effort it might take to use one, possibly. And I would be interested in doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I'm not a big fan of JavaScript either. Like my main concern, like without having done a lot of research, is that Truffle is really gaining a lot of, getting a lot of market. Like everyone uses Truffle basically, and I don't know to what extent migrating to another less used framework will help us like to more new contributors or things like that. And also like I have to look more into it, but I'm not sure like if the testing suite is as developed as it is in like the testing for Truffle, and also like other tools like Solidity coverage. It's slightly coupled with Truffle. Like everyone nowadays just assumes Truffle is what everyone's using. So there would be we could have some problems there related to that. But also regarding kind of getting malicious code into our contract deploy process and actually deploying vulnerable, like not good code or code that has some vulnerability that can take over other users' DAOs. I think that could be very easily, like not very easily, but we could actually have our own checks that don't run using JavaScript, that the code that is deployed in the blockchain is actually the code that we wanted to deploy using, like, and we could actually manually compile the Solidity code and check the code that it's in the blockchain and check that there wasn't anything in the middle that put any bytecode that could be malicious. And that's something that I think we could do, so we can make sure that all the code that Truffle outputs to the blockchain is actually legit. Because this could become a nasty attack issue where like people start injecting malicious JavaScript dependencies that get in the middle of the Truffle build system or whatever and deploy malicious code. Actually, like putting 3 instructions to a smart contract, like it can be like very, very bad. So that's
I wouldn't, but well, checking to make sure that the code is what is deployed is one thing, but the other thing would be if there's some pre-run code before deploying, possibly, you can't see me, but I'm waving my hands here. They could get the private keys possibly as we're deploying. So I don't know, something like that would be also on my list. The other thing is just because everyone uses it, that's like not a great reason to keep using it because I don't know. I mean, we could write a simply code by hand, but it's not a good reason to do it just because of the popularity.
Yeah, but I agree with that. That's not a big reason. But for example, using something that no other project is using can bite you in the ass down the line. Look at the other guys that they are the only cool kids in the blog that still use. Oh, I just realized this was live. Like they're the only ones that keep using Serpent, and people like they have audited the Serpent compiler since they are the only ones that are writing production code in Serpent, and they have figured out that Serpent's not a good language for X, Y, and Z reasons. So I think using like it's not the same because this is just the development pipeline, but I mean I think we have to be conservative on using something that we only use. And regarding like still in the private keys for use for deploy, I'm not too worried about that, since whatever we will use to deploy to mainnet, at least for when we deployed for the Aragon token sale, like that was an address that was specifically created for that exact purpose, and we put the minimum amount of ether needed to deploy the contracts, and that's it. And also, like, deploying to the mainnet is not something that will happen usually, so I don't see the problem regarding stealing private keys as a big one. But I mean, this is something that we can explore, and we can do more research. That I just wanted to point it out, like my two concerns about this.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Cool. Does anyone have anything to add with regard to this?
Yeah, I think it's not only an issue for Aragon Core, it's also an issue for our app, because if some malicious JavaScript gets injected into the app, they could potentially steal some user information there or redirect traffic to the wrong contracts. So I think we also have to be aware of that for the app itself and not just the contracts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to find a solution for how NPM works. We have to make sure that the things we're installing are actually the things we are getting.
It's kind of controversial, but it might be useful in our case right now to actually commit our dependencies to the repo, and then you would know exactly what you're getting anytime you deploy. I mean, it's a huge controversial topic, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to look into some solutions. That's definitely one solution. It's not elegant, but
no, not at all.
yeah. But yeah, it's a solution nonetheless. I think we have to think about it before actually deploying something that people depend on.
Yeah, I'm also like, for the nature of JavaScript, like I'm actually worried because there's no way we can review all the code the app is going to import. I don't know how many modules does the current version have, but I would say it's near like in the low hundreds at least.
I mean, knowing JavaScript, I think it's in the thousands probably. I don't know about Meteor, but it quickly gets out of hand. I don't think that we need to review it manually. I just think that we need to somehow know that something has changed, and what changed, and then we can review it. Yeah, it's a hard problem. I'm not sure how we're going to solve it right now, but I think we should think about it.
Yeah, this is definitely something that we need to solve. I'm actually quite scared about this.
Yeah, because we don't have like minimal dependencies. Like my Ether wallet, they can do it because they have minimal dependencies. We have a few, and we're gonna have a few more when we're migrating to an Electron view kind of thing. So
yeah, I would say there's also like a bit controversial, but we should be very, very picky about what we use as external packages. I mean, I don't think we like if there's just one function that we need from one package or one class, like we should definitely import it into our code, and that's it, and try to import as many as less external packages as possible. And what is the thing about my Ether wallet? How do they do this? I haven't.
So I think to be like 100% secure when using my Ether wallet, people run it locally. I don't think I don't know if they've thought about this, but I would imagine that having a few dependencies make them kind of able to, audit this manually. I can't imagine my Ether wallet having, a bazillion dependencies. I think they have a few, like maybe just Web3 or something. So I don't know if they've actually thought about it, but I think the use case is still valid because, I mean, you could certainly make my Ether wallet with few dependencies.
Yeah, the problem is like Web3 has a bazillion dependencies itself. But yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone have anything to add? Cool. I will go to the next item in the agenda. I just wanted to quickly show you the changes made in the. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, there was a suggestion in the live chat from Joshua to manually add npm dependencies as Git submodules were made available, maybe.
Yeah, that's the point Tim was making, like importing the dependence, like having the dependencies in the repo.
I was saying put it in the repo directly, but I think the suggestion is about having it as a submodule itself. So yeah, it's slightly different, but actually I think that's actually a better idea.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Cool. Okay. So yeah, the kind of the kernel refactor update is like, I wanted to show you what I've been mostly working on this week. So basically, right now, if you go to Aragon Core, which kind of explains how this works, for every single call that we wanted to do to let's say an application, we wanted to make a call to start a vote in the organization. That involved one delegate call from the DAO to the kernel, then another delegate call from the DAO, from the kernel to the dispatcher, and then dispatcher would make a call for every organ ordered. It would ask the first organ, "Hey, first organ, do you know how to handle this payload?" It would say, "No, I'm the meta organ. I don't know how to handle a vote payload." And then it would do a call, like a static call, to the next organ until it made a call to the application organ, and it said, "Yeah, I have an application that knows how to handle this." Because the application organ would ask all their applications if there was anyone who knew how to handle that. And then when it knew what it was going to do, it would do the delegate call to the application organ, and then the application organ would do a call to this. So as you can imagine, this was an overhead of calls. It was way too much. We're talking like an average of almost 10 calls for every call to an application. And at 700 gas per call, like this was quickly starting to add up. So this week I have spent some time making this process a bit different. So right now, the process, like if you want to do a call to the governance app, this will only involve one delegate call from the DAO to the kernel, and then the kernel will know that that call is going to the governance app, and then it will directly call to the governance app. This is the new. I'm also working on documentation right now, so this is the new kind of very, very abstract how it works, and with organs it will work the same. So the reason this works is when we're installing an application or an organ right now, we're telling the kernel explicitly what are the functions or the methods that this application or organ implements. So, and then we keep a registry that is just, okay, if I get a function to create vote, I already know that this signature is going to go to the governance app. And the governance app is an application, so I'm doing a call instead of a delegate call. and then kind of an overview. I haven't finished this. An overview of what's happening inside the kernel, because like we had some more logic here in the graph before. Now it's just the box kernel. So imagine this kernel goes in, and then you get everything that's going on in the kernel. So this is all, and then from when it gets the delegate call from the DAO, it just like it has the same entry points, vanilla, pre-auth, or token transaction. Then it kind of everything's coming from here, but at this point it will have like a standard DAO transaction that is just like these 4 values that identify the transaction. The sender, regardless of what is the actual message.sender of the message, it will get who is the sender, the token, the transaction happened on, the value, and the data of the transaction. And then at this point, it will ask the permissions oracle, oh, hey, like I have this transaction, is this sender sending this value with this token and this data allowed to do this function? And then the permissions oracle, which is by default is the bylaws app. The permissions oracle will say yes or no if this action is allowed. In case it's not, like it just throws. And in case it's yes, we ask the kernel registry, okay, this data, who's the application or the organ that knows how to handle this data? And it will say whoever or no one knows. In case no one knows, like it will throw. And then if not, it will just dispatch here to an organ or here to the application. This got merged into master today. There's still some rough edges, but for example, installing an application is way more expensive right now. But the savings in gas from the last method to what we're doing now, they're very, very significant. Now there's an average of 2 or 3 calls per call, plus the memory expansion of doing the like being able to return like 2 ledgers. It's a bit of gas, but it's not as bad as it was. And this actually allows us to directly call to the application instead of using the application. So yeah, that's everything I wanted to kind of show you regarding the new refactor. Yeah, does everyone have any comments or questions or anything?
It's much more efficient. Good job.
Thanks. Okay, so next item in the agenda is we need to kick off 0.5. This is something that needs to happen ASAP. I thought Hars was going to be here in the call today. So this is something that we could postpone to another meeting, take it to another meeting in which Hars can join too. I don't know, Luis?
Yeah, I actually have something to say here. So we are kicking off the design part of it. So design-wise, we are working with a new designer that I just onboarded like last week. And so she's gonna basically be working on kind of a very basic refactor of the landing page first, but I think that's gonna be finished like even tomorrow, like probably Monday or Tuesday. So after that, she will focus fully on 0.5, and so I think that's gonna be great because we're gonna basically have the new design before starting to work on 0.5. So I guess like next week or the week after, we'll have the final designs of both the UI of the new app and also like any user experience changes that we may have, like, you know, add up or change during this release.
Perfect. I think something that we can start like actually next week is starting to interface from the contracts to the actual dApp. I mean, this is something that doesn't require design or anything. So we can talk in the morning on Monday if you want, Oliver, and we can like start putting things together to everything that needs to be done with the contracts. Also, something that we need to be improved is the way that we cache things in the front end. The way that we used to do it in 0.3, I'm not sure it's ideal. We rely too much on events and all that. So we need to start working on this. I will have a bit more time next week. So if you want, Oliver, we can take this to offline and talk about this on Monday.
Sure, that works for me.
Cool, perfect. And then regarding the overall refactor to Vue, I mean, we will need to discuss when Harsh gets back, but I would love to have like kind of an estimate of what will take to transition this to Vue.
Sure.
Any more comments regarding this, Luis?
No, not from my end.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so now that we're close to finishing 0.4, I wanted to ask a bit, like, to talk about what we're doing regarding audits and the timeline for all this. So right now the 0.4 is like mostly finished, quote unquote. I mean, we're almost feature complete. Like accounting needs to finish, but we're close to even feature complete, and with over 100 unit tests. So that's quite good. But now it's the time where we need to start like having more eyes from the community, looking into our code, and start doing some proper security audits that will allow us to deploy this code eventually to mainnet. So for this, I have thought about two things. Number one, I think it's important to get one or two professional audits from like some top firms, like, I don't know, Zeppelin, or like people that we've worked with also. That I think that's very important to have. And also, I think something that I've been thinking a lot. People are saying a lot of good things about bug bounties being better than audits, and I really don't think so, because the problem with bug bounties is if you don't find anything, you don't get paid for this work, which kind of aligns the incentives to like not look at the code. If you think like you're not going to find anything, then you won't look into it, and you can be like going very, very deep, not finding anything, or finding something very, very small and end up being paid like 50 euros for the work of like 20 hours or something like that. So that's what I don't like about bug bounties. So I'm really excited about this idea that I don't know what you would think about kind of doing community audits, but that also allow these people to be eligible for the bug bounty program. That is, like, if someone wants to audit some part of the code, like totally open, and they tell us, I will audit this, and then present a good audit report of that part that makes points that haven't been made publicly yet, then we can pay this person based on like some performance indicator, or like they can tell us how many hours they did and all that. And then this way, people that are looking for bugs in the bug bounty will know that even if they don't find anything bad enough to like make it worth it, we will pay them like a regular audit fee or whatever. Like nothing too crazy, but I mean, if people want to do it and they present a good report, and then a reasonable invoice for how much hours did that take and how much do they bill per hour, like I think that would be interesting to do, rather than going and hiring the people first and all that.
Yeah, like also a kind of cool idea would be to make them kind of stake or bond some ether or whatever for some period of time, and if they didn't see any problems or any bugs, and then like 6 months after there is some kind of bug that they didn't see at all, then we can kind of slash or kind of punish them for not seeing that. And if not, they just kind of vest that bond back. So they just have their money back plus what we paid them.
That's certainly interesting. I mean, I don't know if I would put a bond and have the risk of losing money for doing work. But I mean, it puts incentive, like it really puts skin in the game, which is interesting. But you know, they would need, like, this is very hard to do it in a trustless way. So
it would really have to be worth it. Like we'd have to like double their money or something to really do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like what I was proposing was a much simpler thing. It was like just allowing people to review one part of the code, provide us with the review, and if it was good, then just pay like a normal contractor. But we can explore this too. Cool. So when do you think, like, when should we start doing the audits?
Probably when accounting is done and 0.4 is locked. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, but we have to account for like when we would like to have the contracts locked regarding to doing the release. Because I'm quite like not afraid that if we invest like substantial amount of money in doing the audits, like let's say like starting 3 weeks from now, and the contracts are locked in September, that we would probably need to do some changes after that. So I'm hesitant on when should we start the audits. Yeah, this is something that needs some more thinking time. We can discuss it once we come from like closer to completion of 0.4. Cool. So next item in the agenda is like let's kind of discuss what everyone's goals are going to be for the next 2 weeks and all that. So I will start from my end. I will work on finishing up the kind of the state of 0.4. I want to go back and review all the code that we've written and improve make it more cohesive, because there are parts that are quite different in the style. Make it more cohesive, improve the documentation of the code, and then apart from that, I want to work on like having documentation documents, like actually written docs about how everything works. How can you interact with it with the software, and documentation about writing Aragon apps for developers and all that. Kind of polishing the repo further once we are feature complete. Who wants to go next? Tim?
Hey. Yeah, I want to finish the accounting. I'm behind schedule from where I thought I'd be by now. Not good, but I'm focusing on that 100%, and I think I should catch up with you.
Perfect. Oliver?
Yeah, so I'll talk to you on Monday, and we'll flesh it out, but I think that I'll probably focus on working on the interface between the contracts and the UI for 0.5. What that entails, we'll talk about on Monday, but that will probably be my focus. I also have a wish to like look into possible patterns between Web3 and RxDB. I saw that Harsh wanted to use RxDB, I guess, for caching in 0.5. So I'll look into that as well.
Perfect.
Cool. From my end, next week I'm gonna be on vacation, so not a lot of like execution and working on the product. But I guess I will be kind of thinking, because that's always what I do while I'm on vacation, just thinking and like quality time. But yeah, I'll be on vacation.
That's cool. Cool. So, does everyone have anything that want to add or discuss something else? No. Okay. Tattoo, do we have like any questions from anyone watching or whatever?
No, no questions really. That was Joshua was wondering why there are no honeypot contracts on Ethereum, something like secret bug bounties. Do you have an answer for that?
Because they didn't see it when we put it in.
Cool. So if there are no more questions or anything, I think we could close the meeting. Thanks everyone for joining the call. And yeah, let's keep pushing. Bye guys.
Yay. Bye bye. Thank you everyone. Ciao, ciao.